Hey Acers, I am glad to be talking to you again today, and welcome everybody, Acers and new Acers, to the Ace Role Playing Games channel. My name is Mason Emerson. I am the host and founder, and this is the Ace Role Playing Games Club, which stands for Achieve, Create, and Entertain. And here we're gaming for good. So the main purpose of this channel is to help you set up your own role playing game club wherever you're at, to be able to gather your friends together and spend a wonderful afternoon or evening telling a wonderful story. So, with that said, I wanted to kind of go back a little bit to one of the first videos that I did, and that was talking about the I was talking about a concept called um, or just the concept of how to roll in Savage Worlds and how to explain it to somebody. Because this is really the first part about being a good game master, is being able to explain the dice system of whatever you're running to whoever's going to play with you. So, fortunately, I do have the right dice here to be able to explain this. So, I'm going to use a dice set that is going to be used for the main dice set. And that's my really cool purple and blue ones that come from Roll for Initiative. I'll turn this a little bit better. Roll for Initiative. That's them. And they got a sale going on right now, so if you want to jump in on that, and I'll try to remember to link them down below. As a matter of fact, I'll just make a note that I will. So I have them out. I'll remember to do that. And then, actually, I'm going to use a D6 from the other set. So here's what we do to explain it. And like I said, explaining a dice system is the first step in helping to help other people get into not only Savage Worlds, but whatever other system you're going to use. So to start with, you explain, because the first thing they're going to ask is it like D&D? And the answer here, I'm going to actually angle this down and make this go away. Okay, there we go. The answer here is yes, it is very similar to D&D in that you are sitting at a table, you are sharing thoughts and ideas, and you are making a story together. That's where it's very similar. And we love D&D here. D&D is welcome in any Ace role-playing game club. Any Acer can run a D&D game if they want. I'm not going to teach you how to do that. I'm going to teach you using Savage Worlds, which is not my sponsor, but they're good friends of mine. And I'm going to help you be ready to use the principles of game mastering that I teach using Savage Worlds to be able to run your own games. So let's hypothetically say that I've approached you at the game store because you've seen the other teens playing, and you're asking me, okay, so is this like D&D? And this is where I'm going to say it is, but it isn't. It's like D&D in that you're going to make characters and you're going to roll dice to determine outcomes, and dice help you understand if failure is interesting. And you should only roll dice when failure is interesting. But where it's different is, well, here, let me show you just real quick the dice system, because I can explain the dice system, the mechanics of the game, in 10 minutes, give or take. So first, I say to them, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to not need your D20. So I'll drop that back in the container. Second thing I explain to them is most of the time, you're not even going to need. And as a matter of fact, I don't think I've had a player use them yet, but you're not going to need your percentile dice. So we'll put those. But you will need the D10. So then I explained to them that A basic success in Savage Worlds is a 4. In most situations, 4 is the target number that you're trying to roll. 4 or better on the die. So then I will tell them with an example. I will show them how it works. I'll say, let's imagine we're in a room. It's a modern setting. And a fight breaks out. And in that fight, fists are being thrown, and one of the bad guys pulls out a gun. You, being the martial artist that you are, you knock that gun out of his hand. It skids to the floor and it lands at my feet. And I've never shot a gun before in my life. I look down at this gun, knowing that this guy has now pulled out a knife, and he's going to try and stab you. I need to stop this. So I'm going to pick up this gun and shoot it. Because, really, anybody can shoot a gun. Whether you hit or not, that's another question. And so to represent that, because I don't have a skill in shooting, I'm going to roll a d4, or I guess, I could show them the regular triangular one, the tetrahedral one. There's your big word for the day. But what I'm going to say, though, is I'm going to say, however, I'm going to roll this d4 and I'm going to subtract 2 from the final total. And you may think, how could I get a 4 to succeed to hit with a gun on a d4 if I have to subtract 2? And the answer is because if you roll a 4 on the d4, you actually have succeeded, and not succeeded, but you've aced. That's the first Savage Worlds concept. Well, the second one, really, because 4 being the success, that's the first Savage Worlds concept. Second is the d4 minus 2, but the third is that if you roll a 4 on the d4, you have aced, and you can pick it up and roll it again and add the new number to it. So as long as you roll a 6 or better, you've succeeded still. But, and this is where I say, but, because you're the coolest person in this movie, and it's like a movie, and your character's the cool person, your name's in the credits, your name's on the marquee, and on the posters. Let's make this a little bit better, because we're going to add in another d6 that has to be a 4 or better. Now, if you roll a 6 on a d6, that is where you can roll it again and add to it. So I pick up the gun. I roll the dice. And here are my results of the first roll. And you can see that my d4 rolled a 4. So I'm going to pick that up. I'm going to roll it again. And looky there, I got my 2. So I succeeded. The shot that I just took is now successful. I've hit my target. I just shot the bad guy. Boom. And now I'm going to roll the damage. Because it was just a regular success, I will be rolling 2d6 for damage. And I roll those. I rolled a 3 and a 3, and I add them together for damage. So you add damage together. When you remember to remind them, and this is one of the ones people always get tripped up on at first. If I rolled, because I rolled a 4 on my d4 and a 4 on my d6 when I was doing the trait roll. People most of the time add them together. But what you do is you remind them, no, it has to be a 4 or better on one die or the other. But when I rolled my 3 here just now on my d6 and 3 on the other d6, that's the damage dice. 2d6 is the damage of a handgun. Now, in most modern settings, give or take, most people have a 5 toughness. So this is how you explain to them toughness. You say, so I rolled a 6 here. Now, with their toughness being 5, and that's 1 more than 5, or if you count an ASL, it's 6. But that's 1 more than 5. And so because I rolled a 5 or a 6 in this case, or 7 or an 8, that gives the bad guy a status of shaken. Shaken is that they weren't actually injured, but that bullet went right past their ear, and it scared them. They heard that bullet go past. They felt the wind of its passage as it hit the wall behind them, and they went gah. So now I continue my analogy further. The gun lands at my feet again, but this time I'm a shooter. I've actually been to a gun range. I've got over the scare of the bang. I'm doing okay. So I'm going to roll again my D6 and my D4, but this time I don't subtract 2. And so I shoot. Okay, first part of the results, 2 and a 6. So I get to roll the 6 again. And I got a 5. So with target number to hit being a 4, what happens when you get a second target number? So this is a success. What happens when you get a second success? With 8. That's what we call a raise. And a raise means that you rolled at least one success more. So I hit this bad guy. And what I get to do now is I'm going to roll my 2d6 for 7 points of damage. But, I'm going to turn that right side up. 7. But I also get to roll, if I had a third one here, but I get to roll a d6 a third time and add on another 2 to make it 9 points of damage because I raised on my success. So 3d6 is now the damage. And being as 3d6 is now the damage, and I just did 9 points of damage to him. Remember before, 5 points is a success, is a shaken. 6, 7, 8, all shaken. But that 9th point is 4 over the 5. And that is success with a wound. So if he's a mook, he's going down. He's going to be incapacitated right there. So basically, boom, I shot, and it hits him in the back, and he drops his knife, and he drops to the ground. And you look over at me and say, thanks. That's the way to do it, pal. Now, let's say I am better than just that I'm an average shooter now. I maybe own my own gun, and that gun again. I don't have my gun with me, maybe, but I pick that gun up off the floor and I roll now a d6 as my skill die with my wild die. That's what this die is called. This extra d6 is called a wild die because your character is a wild card. And even somebody who's skilled at shooting can still fail. So I shoot and it doesn't whiz past his ear and it goes right to the wall. Then we say, well, maybe I was a police officer, or maybe I grew up on a farm situation where I shot a whole lot and I really got good at shooting, and I've shot hundreds of rounds in practice. To represent that, we say it's a D8 in the skill. So I'm going to roll that. Now, can you guess what I got there? The D8 didn't succeed, but the D6 did. My wild die succeeded. So I would still roll damage, but only 2d6 in damage for the handgun. Let's say I was a soldier, or I had been a soldier, and I'd shot thousands of rounds in practice. That represents with a d10. So I would roll that. Excellent. Excellent in this sense. First of all, if you get a 1 on your trait die and a 1 on your wild die, that's known as a critical failure. And because it's a critical failure, you get to narrate to the GM. I get to narrate to you as the GM what just happened. I'm like, my gut. And also add to this, since this bad guy was in combat with my friends, with my friend in hand-to-hand combat, because I rolled a 1 on my trait die, I hit my friend. And I have to roll damage on him. So I have to roll 2d6 damage on him. And I rolled 7. So he's shaken now. And I say, and with that shot, I just realized what I did, so I dropped the gun at a surprise, and now I'm going to have to pick it back up. So say I'm a sniper or somebody who does practiced long range shots. I'd roll a d12, and this is the highest any skill or trait goes. So this is my trait die. This is my wild die. I'm going to roll them together. And here's the thing. It is true that you have a better chance of acing when you are rolling a d6 and a d8 together. One of the other will ace more frequently. Yes. However, here's the reason why you advance your die type. Yes, I succeeded on my wild die. I got a 4. But I got an 8 on my trait die. That means I succeeded with a raise just by my trait die. I don't need to raise, or don't need to ace to get a success with a raise here. And so I get to roll the 3d6 for damage. And that, with the exception of like when you're fighting in a melee combat or something like that, but that is how the basics of Savage Worlds works. And this is part of the Savage Worlds system. It's copyright to them. They're amazing. Go out and buy yourself a copy. I don't know if they have any hard copies available again because they got a whole new shipment in, and I think they're already gone because everybody's realizing that while D&D is great, there are so many other wonderful systems out there to try. And for me, Savage Worlds is where I landed, and I'm happy to be here. And I'm happy to share it with you. I'm happy to help you learn basic skills of the dice system so that you get the idea of learn your dice system first. And next video, I'm going to revisit how to do this in a better combat situation that's a little more structured, that has some actual enemies and things like that. And I'll try and get the stats up in here and everything like that. So, guys, I love you. If no one's ever told you that today, or hasn't told you that in a while, I love you. And you're amazing. And the world is a better place because you're in it. So, stick with us. There's a lot more fun to come. Here, we're gaming for good. And I'm Mason Emerson, signing off.